Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Snap Refund podcast. My name is Anise Taylor,
And my name's Cody Eddings.
and we are back with another wonderful episode. This time, we're going to be talking to pioneers in the parametric insurance space. And today, we have no one better than Kate Stillwell. Kate is a licensed structural engineer and an insurtech entrepreneur. She founded Jumpstart, the first parametric insurance for U.S. consumers. Jumpstart was acquired by Neptune Flood in 2021. At Neptune, Kate continues to lead Jumpstart while also developing an indemnity earthquake product and working to accelerate community-based parametric insurance. As a side project, Kate has co-founded FireBreak, a startup that uses AI to verify property conditions related to wildfire mitigation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kate Stillwell.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for being here with us. So, Kate, just jumping into things, can you tell us a little bit about your career journey and what led you to launch Jumpstart and later what you're doing with Firebreak?
Yeah, I still have a foot in the structural engineering community, and I sometimes get the question from them, what made you decide to go into the field of insurance? Made you leave the noble profession of structural engineering? And honestly, I tell them that insurance is just as noble because it's fulfilling a really important social good that underlies the financial stability of our economies. But that usually comes later after a few snarky comments. But it was because of my structural engineering experience that I realized there was a gap, right? So most of my work has been earthquake retrofits of existing historic buildings. And I started, in talking with the owners, sometimes they would be doing these retrofits to avoid having to buy insurance or at the request of their insurer. And so I started to dig in and learn about the insurance industry, the earthquake insurance industry in California in particular. And I realized that there's less than 10% of the property at risk is insured. And so what that means is after the next big earthquake or disaster, this applies to flood as well, after the next big earthquake, the amount of money coming into our economy is going to be a tiny fraction of what's needed to actually recover. And so my big idea or the sort of the question is how do we open the taps to get more money flowing in? And that was a very unformed, cloudy concept until during my MBA program at Haas, UC Berkeley, my real estate finance professor mentioned almost offhand this notion of parametric insurance. And I was like, that's what we need. We need micro parametric insurance for consumers in California to overcome the objections related to cost and the objections related to all the back and forth with the adjuster.
Wow.
It's really interesting. We've worked a lot in the past together, which has been really amazing. Seeing you grow along your journey has been so awesome to watch. For listeners that are unfamiliar with parametric models, if you could explain it, like they're 5 years old, how does it work in comparison to legacy insurance products?
Yeah, and I'll say legacy, is still a majority of the insurance products that are out there. So the insurance products that you're used to. But before I explain that, I want to say thank you to SnapRefund because we are in partnership where SnapRefund is the provider of the payment services for the Jumpstart payouts. Okay, so here's how parametric works. There is a lump sum of money that is transferred from the insurer to the recipient upon occurrence of a pre-agreed event or pre-agreed data point or pre-agreed data parameter, which is why it's called parametric. So there's no adjusters that come look. There's no need to even incur damage. The idea is that this pre-agreed parameter is high enough and severe enough that everybody's going to need money for something.
That's really interesting. And thank you for sharing that too, Kate. We're so proud to be working with you at Snap Refund and working with Jumpstart, and especially being a resident in California and seeing the calamities that can happen, and cert with the wildfires being one, and just knowing what can possibly happen with an earthquake and the damage. Um, being able to serve the people, it really is, it's what our purpose is as well. And so being able to work with you and have that alignment and being able to serve the community in the most dire time, but being prepared, that really is wonderful. It sounds like a no-brainer when you talk about Jumpstart and what you guys are doing there, but that didn't come about without its set of challenges. Can you talk a little bit about what challenges you faced when you were trying to introduce this model into the industry?
Yeah, I faced challenges on the demand side and the supply side. So the demand side, the challenges are still with us to this day of um, how do people know about it? How do they decide that they want something like this? And I got to be honest, like the next time there's a big disaster and people get paid out and there's a lot of buzz about it, that's what's gonna that's what's gonna be required in order for people to demand parametric insurance from the ground up for this groundswell to happen. On the supply side, the capacity providers were reluctant to, for two reasons. One is they were hesitant and cautious about the regulatory view of parametric products and wanted to make sure they stayed within their mandate of selling insurance only and not a product that could be characterized as something that's not insurance. And they were hesitant on the demand side. They said, well, is this going to, produce enough revenue for us as the capacity provider in order to make it worth the time that we're going to invest in supporting this program? And so we're very happy to be working with Munich Re, who was an early adopter and an early believer in the power of parametric and exactly the community benefits that you just mentioned, Denise. And they are supporting Jumpstart to this day. And on the demand side, it's a matter of informing agents and finding creative ways to bundle the insurance with other products that people are thinking about in terms of preparation for disasters.
That makes a lot of sense. We had a lot of fun. I was working with Curtis Goldsboro and you for this video we did in San Diego last year. And for those of you that haven't seen it, go check it out. There's an awesome video on YouTube. Check out Loss Ratio Jumpstart, Cody Eddings. We had a really fun time filming this video from the perspective of both the insured and from an agent who was administering and placing this parametric coverage. And within that, I learned a lot about the way that it seems to position these products are not holistic as the only coverage someone has, but as a supplement. Can you talk a bit about how you foresee parametric either continuing to supplement or maybe one day growing in its ownership of the market share compared to existing non-parametric products for the average policyholder?
Yeah, parametric policies eliminate all the things that people hate about insurance. People hate not being in control. People hate the uncertainty of like how much money am I actually going to get? People hate having to fight with the big guy, the power asymmetry. And so once people start to get paid and once people start talking about it, it will become a new product category that people will buy, not have to be sold to, right? And so it will never replace a total loss indemnity policy because it doesn't cover total losses, but it definitely gels with the mindset of wanting a guarantee. Parametric insurance is not a guarantee, but the human mind is just wired for if then rather than maybe probably.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point. I mean, it speaks into the value of peace of mind. Really, I mean, there's nothing that could really take you away from that peace of mind. And that's what you're providing at Jumpstart is really at this moment a peace of mind that that in the event of a catastrophe like an earthquake, you're going to be okay. There's going to be something that's going to supplement what you're probably going to go through at that time, you know. And as you're building this, I think too, what's really interesting is that you have the mindset of a startup, even though now you're working with Neptune and they're really big and with what they're doing in flood. Can you talk a little bit about just as you're building this and showing the resilience to really grow this startup? When is a time that adversity has pushed you and allowed you to keep on going when maybe you felt that, this might not happen?
Um, So I'm going to tell a story that I've told before, but nevertheless, it bears retelling. But before I do that, I will just say Neptune in and of itself is still quite young. It's still a startup. It started at the same time as Jumpstart. And yes, it's experiencing a growth spurt right now. But Neptune has 1/100th the number of flood policies as the NFIP. So I'm very proud that Neptune is able to maintain its startup mindset, and it's really a fun group of people to be working with.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So when I was founding Jumpstart before we were acquired by Neptune, there was a point in time when we had been working with a prospective capacity provider for a year and a half, and we were 7 days out from launch. And we like all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, and all that remained was for the decision maker to sign the agreement. And the technology was built, the marketing materials were ready, we were ready to go. This was August 2017. And I got the dreaded phone call, which said from my client contact, who was not the decision maker, he said, Kate, I'm really sorry to say this, but the decision maker decided not to move forward with the Jumpstart relationship and we're not going to sign the contract. And my heart just sank. And I knew that we were like almost out of money. And we had 8 employees. And I knew that we couldn't sustain the 8 employees. I knew that we might be dead in the water if we couldn't find another capacity provider. I knew it might take another 18 months to find another capacity provider. And one of my key employees was leaving for vacation that day. So I called her up and I was like, can I drive you to the airport? And I had to give her the bad news that she was laid off. And then over the next 6 hours, I laid off all of the remaining 7 employees. And that just, whether it's 7 or 70 or 700, it's just so painful to lay people off. And 2 of the employees were willing to stay on basically for a pittance and help us pull off this publicity stunt, a last-ditch effort by bringing the trailer, which if you watch the video, you will see the trailer, to ITC. And we had the trailer in Caesar's Palace, thumping and bumping, and we had a line like 200 people long. And sure enough, one of the people who rode on the trailer, which is a earthquake simulator. So you ride in it, you simulate it's an earthquake. One of the people who took a ride on the simulator tweeted about it. The Jumpstart shaker is the best thing at ITC. And sure enough, that innovation lead was the company that he worked for was the capacity provider that ended up supporting Jumpstart a year later. So it was, all bets were off, but the publicity stunt paid off.
That's amazing. It's amazing too how sometimes, they say it's darkest before dawn, which is cliche, but if you've been in a startup, you've probably lived that experience. And that trailer it really does thump and bump, by the way. So when we rode in that thing, I felt like I was gonna get thrown out of it. If you look in the video, I'm like reaching out, I'm trying to hold on to you and Anise, like, hold on, guys, this thing is really moving. So in those moments, because those are really tough times and it can really push you to some dark places where you really have to endure or figure out how to handle things. What is it that kept you going?
So in my mental buckets, I have 2 buckets for entrepreneurs, and I have great respect for folks in the other bucket. But the bucket I'm in is people who have a vision and are executing because there's a change they want to see in the world, and they know that they can do it. And so for me, what kept me going was this vision is too important to give up. The other bucket of entrepreneurs is folks who are motivated by money, which like I said, I have complete respect for, and they're very savvy and they understand what project is going to make the most money right now, what's needed right now, what are the pain points. And so they have a different set of motivations. But for all the entrepreneurs out there that are really motivated by vision, that's your best friend.
Yeah. So I mean, it really is tough. And and what's great too is a lot we have in our listener base founders. So as these founders are kind of also pulling themselves, through their own trenches, and trying to transform what they're doing in the space. if you had to lock in on three mantras that you could give as advice, three that you feel that really, encapsulate what your journey was. Actually, I'm going to take it back because three might be a lot. Let's say one. What would that be?
Okay, if I only have to do one,
You only have to do one.
I would say, but I think I could do
If
three.
you have
But
more, let's go.
all right,
Yeah,
all
but
right.
okay.
Um, if I only had one, it's time is your friend.
Time.
Down with FOMO. You don't have to race. There are things that will emerge if you give it enough time. And this is completely contrarian to the current mindset of startups and investors who are pushing, pushing, pushing faster, faster. And but growth happens in spurts, and opportunities arise where you least expect them. And cultivating the mindset and the space and the conditions that will let those opportunities pop up is way more better use of your time, energy, and you'll conserve your very precious zeitgeist if you let things unfold in the way that they're going to.
Yeah.
No more FOMO.
No more FOMO.
Well, I'm getting
Um,
FOMO now because there are two other mantras you said you had
oh,
in
okay, all right. So this one I learned really, really the hard way, which is feedback is a gift. It's completely cliche, but negative feedback in particular, I just took it so personally, like as if your vision is not important. But that's not necessarily the case. In some cases it was, but in the large majority of, prospective partners or investors saying, you know what, this is not the right fit. That's such a gift because that means I don't have to spend any more time chasing. And also, there's a component of it that, you know, encourages reflection. Like, okay, what are they seeing and what are they saying? And is there a need for improvement, which there isn't necessarily? And if so, what is the opportunity for improvement? I'm not saying you should change your product or your vision to every piece of feedback that you receive. Don't over-index on every piece of information, but it's a treasure box of the information that you're collecting.
Yeah. So, Kate, thank you so much, really, for shedding light and joining us. How we love to kind of conclude our shows, we like to go through a rapid fire set of questions. We have a few, but we'll just go ahead and say our question, and if you could just give us a quick answer with how you feel.
Sure.
Great. Favorite book on innovation or leadership?
Okay, so this is recency bias. Um, and it's a little bit unconventional. I recently read Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart. Okay, so it's not a book on innovation and technology, but it's so helpful because it provides a framework on using language to explain emotions, right? And so it helps me differentiate between the different emotions and be able to observe like what emotion is going on there, and it really cross pollinates the cognitive understanding with the gut intuition. And so I really strongly recommend it.
What's one emerging trend in insurtech that you're excited about?
Okay, so I would be remiss if I didn't say that I'm very excited about AI, but a particular component of AI, which is the use of agents and creating agentic AI, right? Because AI, some people hate it, some people love to hate it, right? But it's the use of agents, agentic AI is so powerful that to be able to develop sort of an in-house domain expert, to be able to execute, to be able to tell it to execute certain things and help let you do things that you're not good at. So one of the things I'm not good at is developing and chasing a sales pipeline, right? I'm good at communicating the vision. I'm good at da 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 da. But being able to execute and deliver on something I'm not good at is just magic for founders.
Do you have a specific tool that you're using that's helping you with your lead generation?
No, because I am only at the cusp of exploring the lead generation. Because as I said to you before we started recording, we're at a little bit of we're laying low for the moment for FireBreak, in particular, which is where we need leads, and there will be a time when it comes time to ramp up our efforts on lead generation for FireBreak.
Yeah.
Yeah. When that moment comes around, as always, feel free to talk shop. We've been looking at a lot of different tools ourselves, and it's one of those things where there's so many options, it's almost overwhelming. You don't really know where to even start because there's so many tools out there. And I think even for investors in the space, it's hard for them even to differentiate between AI products now because they almost all kind of give the same broad claims, but then it's a little hard to know which ones are actually going to perform the way that they're advertised to. So anything that you've learned and that we've learned, yeah, I think it's better when everyone sort of lets the rising tide lift all boats in the space. What's the best way for our audience to connect with you and learn more, Kate?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. I gotta admit, I'm not on LinkedIn continuously, not from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. like our friend Curtis, but I do respond to the notifications, and that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Kate Stillwell, for joining us on the Snap Refund podcast. We really appreciate you and we wish you all the best in your journey.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.